morning or good evening, depending on when you're tuning in. Uh, for me, I guess it's kind of both. But thank you for joining me tonight here on Raven Academy Mystery School. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a few things, but mainly we're going to be talking about these divine sigils right here. This is just a few of the ones uh, that mainly pertain to the feminine divine energy, right? The mother god, the goddess, as it were. All right. So the first is the also the topic of the other series of videos that I'm doing on Ma'at's feather, right? And the 42 laws of Ma'at, of which I think I'm on 9 through 12. I'll be posting that after this. But so anyway, Ma'at's feather, right? It's easy to understand what this is supposed to spiritually signify when you take a second to understand and think about what a feather signifies, like what it is, what its characteristics are, right? It's lightweight, right? It's easy to pick up, it's easy to put down, right? It's not really cumbersome, like at all, even if you have a billion of them. Like birds can fly through the sky and do all kinds of amazing acrobatic and feats of agility, and they have all these feathers on them, right? Because feathers they're just not that dense, right? But they're powerful, right? In the things that they can do. Not to mention their proximity to the sun, which, as we know, is a symbol of divine knowledge and spirit, right? And soul. That's why it's called that, right? It's also a star. Um, there's also the fact that it's associated with women has to do with a few things. It's not just birds because there are male birds too, right? It has to do with the shape usually of feathers, and how feathers usually curve, and they kind of curve at the top. That's why it's made like that with the curve at the top, right? But also when you drop a feather, right? If it is falling down or it's in the wind, what does it do? It does that. And what does that look like, right? That's the cadence of a woman's walk. Okay, it's light, it's effortless, but it's also like it's got that this shape, right? That just transfixes people. People are naturally drawn to that shape because that shape in and of itself indicates fertility, infinity, life, time, right? The cycle of life, like it indicates all of that. And you might not be aware of that consciously, but you are aware of that subconsciously, okay? And it standing for all of these things is one of the reasons that Ma'at's feather is associated with the concepts of divine justice. This is to say, non-man made justice, right? These 42 descriptors, these 42 principles, laws, declarations, or negative confessions, however you want to call them, what they actually are doing is helping you to keep yourself properly aligned, right? To keep yourself operating on the correct frequency. This is to say, keep you in correct habit, in correct frame of mind, and in correct pattern of speech, right? To literally keep all of those vibrations correct, right? Not lean too much to one side or the other, right? So when you get that, this feather encompasses all of that meaning, right? And you look at it as, again, it being lightweight as a metaphor for the feather being light. See what I mean? Your heart must be light as the feather. That means it must be unburdened physically, right? But it also must be knowledgeable, light, the sun, right? It must be light as the feather. So it must also know divinity. It can't just be detached and just be out here by itself. It must also be light. It can be light as the feather, right? Next, we have the pentacle and the pentagram. The difference being one has the circle, hence pentagram, and a circle, right? But the circle in and of itself is almost always indicative of motion, right? Something going around, right? So this can be seen as this in motion. This is just acknowledging that this is in motion, and everything is happening within here because this star is symbolic of the bodies, not just the physical body, but also the spiritual body. All right, and if you look at this, you can see that because if I cut off here, 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 and here, you have a torso. You see what I mean? Right? And when this is inverted, it kind of gives you the opposite understanding that it's the physical star when it's inverted. This is the spiritual or soul star or northern star, right? Or the Venus star, right? But when it's inverted, it is the dog star or it's Baphomet or it's um, the goat's head. You know what I'm saying? The I forget what they call the goat of Messer, I think. But that's materialism. It's physical. It's, you know what I mean. And how do you see that? Because if you chop these points off when it's the other way around, you get a star pointing up, indicating that if you lose the attachments to that physical, you gain spiritual knowledge. But if you lose these attachments to your spiritual self, you gain physical knowledge. See what I mean? And let's see. Next, we have circle and the ovum. Egg, yeah, okay, whatever. But I feel like ovum kind of has a gravitas to it that egg just kind of doesn't, right? So, do it again. Like I said, this is the circle is always indicative of the motions of life, right? You going in this circle, and you go in this circle until you learn the lesson, right? And then you advance inward or outward, right? This egg is indicative also of the circle of life in that everything comes from that. Everything is born and then dies, and then another thing is born, okay, from these eggs. And all the potential for that to happen rests what's inside this egg. Okay, this stands for the continuum of life and infinite possibility in that one cycle. This stands for a cycle of life and the infinite continuum through rebirth. Okay, so a lot of times you'll see these interchanged a lot. Okay, because I mean you see a lot of species lay eggs, and I think even human eggs are roughly this shape as opposed to this shape, which is what like bird eggs are shaped like. But again, they're used interchangeably to indicate the same train of thought. Next, over here, we got the crescent moon and the horns. And I put them together like that because the meanings of them kind of overlap a little bit. Okay, you often see the horns in pictures of like Heru. Like I got one right here. You can't really see it, but her horns are like that. And a lot of time when you see that like that, and yes, even in the sky right now, this is indicating a move, a shift into that goddess energy because that's what that is. That's Het Heru's horns. That's Aset's horns. Okay? But it's also the nurturing bosom of the mother. Okay? But it's also the opening eye of the mother. Okay? Next, we have down here horns. Again, like I said, the meanings kind of overlap because these horns also reference these horns, right? Because the horns also stand for dual divine knowledge, okay? But they're also indicative of the nourishment of the mother via the cow, the bovine, okay? So this is horns, but it's also the divine mother's teat that nourishes all things. See, you have to look at it a couple different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like teat, horns, right? But it's also the shape of early harps and what they would call lyres, right? Lyre. Okay, not Lyre. Lyre. It's an instrument, right? And it's basically a harp, okay? And this is important because this is indicative of music. Even now, they use that symbol to indicate music. It'd just be like strings in there and a bar across there, right? But that means music. And music, as we already covered in one of my past videos, is indicative of the muses. It's literally called goddess. Like that's what music means. It's of the goddess, right? The muses, amusement, right? Be mused. Like all of these things have to do with your spiritual condition in the moment. Okay? And that's why you are inspired by the muse. Okay? Next we have Upsilon and Omega. I'm sure you've seen this one before, right? But I don't think a lot of people are familiar with Upsilon. Upsilon is the beginning and Omega is the end. We know that, right? How is this the beginning? Again, we go back down here, okay? Every time you see this shape in this position with the opening up, that's the breast, that's the beginning of something, that's the inspiration, that's the spirit of something coming into being born. It's being nurtured, it's growing, okay? So this is the beginning, right? Another way to think about this, how they used to depict this in ancient times, like we're talking about before Greece was even something that was established, which is basically again where we get letters and stuff from. They're actually old pictures and old ways of making markings that looked like the ideas that we were trying to relay. So this is a jar or a bowl. Okay, again, another symbol we know is a divine feminine symbol for the womb or the belly, right? This is a bowl full with water in it, right? Let me grab a marker. Look, so you can see what I mean. Put some water in that thing, right? Or just, that amniotic fluid, that water. So you got some amniotic fluid in there, some water. So it's a womb, right? And then you tip the jar or the bowl upside down, what happens? All water comes out. Okay? So you have epsilon, omega. But then there's something else pretty crazy that I wanted to show you guys about epsilon and omega. As I just showed you and explained to you, epsilon and omega are both divine feminine symbols describing the breast, you know what I'm saying, the bosom, the nurturing bosom, and the womb, right? So what if I take epsilon right? And I take omega and I do that. What's that? What are you doing, marker? It's an hourglass. Put the sand in here. Beginning. Sand comes down here. In. Okay. And a lot of times you have to think about these shapes that way. They're not just letters or two-dimensional pictures. A lot of times these represent three-dimensional ideas. Okay. So next we have the spiral. Okay, the spiral is another one that indicates the progression of time or the progression of a thing in general. Okay, say you do it like you start here, right, with a circle, and it can be as small as one of these dots. You start like that at that point, right, like this. Say I start here, but if I only do this, if I stay here, I never go anywhere. I stay that circle, that little tiny dot, right? But if I gain some energy, like electrons do, okay, we're talking about atomic science here, atomic structure. In order for an electron to jump to one level from, let's say, an inner level or an energetic shell cloud, because it's really where it is, what it is. It's not a level per se. You can't find it at any one spot. It's more like a cloud of possibility states for the electron. So you would find it, say, if this is the nucleus, the electron might be here anywhere in that radius around it. But if it jumps up and it gets some energy, it'd be up here. It can be anywhere in this sphere. It can get more energy and be out here, right? So the same thing applies to the concept of the spiral and the cycle of life. You gain knowledge from the lesson and you move out to a bigger spiral. Okay, you can also get stuck in that one. But if you gain more knowledge, boom, you move out and you move outward and you move outward and you move outward and you keep moving outward and upward. Or, inward and upward, as the case may be. Anytime you see this is the progressive indicator or progressive symbology of the circle. This is more or less static. All right. Think about it like this: if you take this circle and you lay it on its side, you have that. Right. Same thing with that. Even if you lay it oblong ways, you just get a longer line, right? But if you lay this spiral on its side, you get something like this. Or like this. You see what I mean? So now understand that when you take this and you apply three-dimensional space parameters to that, okay, you get the sphere. Okay, I can't even draw what this would be if you rotated that in 3 dimensions. If you flipped that around like that, basically what I did was took that and just did it's like this and just did that and did this. Okay, now you get a 3 dimensional circle. When you do that with this, you don't get that. You get something that you can't really demonstrate in 3 dimensional shape or 3 dimensional space. This is why these symbols and these arcane sigils exist to relay these complex ideas. Okay, and even now, the words that they would use to describe these to most people will be beyond most people's comprehension. Okay, okay. Next, we're gonna talk about the triquetra. Okay, triquetra, Triquetra. This is an interesting one to me. Okay, because of a number of things. First, um, first, it's known as the Trinity symbol, right? But they always call this the Holy Ghost, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And we all know what that's really supposed to be. That's supposed to be Father, Son, Mother, right? Because that's how you get things. You have one thing of one type, another thing of another type, boom, and then they make another thing. And that thing does the same thing with another thing of another type. That's how you, right? That's how progression works. Okay. So I think a lot of that was, again, it's this whole idea of trying to suffocate a woman's spiritual intuition. I don't know. It's just, I don't really want to get into it right now because it's kind of some of the shadiest stuff that goes on in this world, right? But I digress. Triquetra, even the name of it is a feminine pronunciation. Note the A on the end. Triquetra. Not quite triquetro. It's not triquetroni. It's not triquetri. Okay? Triquetra. This is a Latin word. Okay? Latin or Greek? I have to look that back up. But in any case, the A is indicating feminine possession of this noun, right? Now, another interesting thing about this, another way you kind of can immediately realize that this is indeed a divine feminine symbol is to look at the middle of this, right? What's in the middle of that right there? Right here. It's a triangle, right? Or the chalice, okay? And what this chalice is ovaries and fallopian tubes. Waters of life. All in there. Okay? That's the Holy Grail. That's the golden chalice. That's the you know what I'm saying? That's what that is. And I mean, even you can even take that shape. Okay? Hourglass. Water is the beginning because the water comes down. Sound interacts, waves interact, energy interacts within that medium. Sparks, light happen, things go up. Fire rises, heat rises. Okay, this is why the water sigil points down, the fire sigil is a triangle that points up. Let's see, what else did I have in here that I wanted to talk to you guys about before I get off and start talking about another one. I think that might actually be it from here because I want to get to the Ma'at. So I'm going to get off of here and I'm going to come back and this will all be different. It'll be something else. And we're going to continue with 9 through 12 of the 42 Principles of Ma'at. And thank you guys for joining me. And if you don't come back, I will see you later. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and go ahead and comment down there in the comment section. And I will see you guys later.